Gopi Janavallabha Givadhai Yashodanandana Bhaja Jananjana Yashodanandana Bhaja Jananjana Yamunatira Vanachai Yamunatira Vanachai Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Givadhai Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Givadhai Yashodanandana Bhaja Jananjana Yashodanandana Bhaja Jananjana Yamunatira Vanachai Yamunatira Vanachai Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Radha Madhava Radha Madhava Shri Radhe. Jaya Radha Kala Chandi Radha Kala Chandi Shri Radhe. Jaya Radha Damodara Radha Damodara Shri Radhe. Jai Shri Shri Radha Kalachandji ki Jai, Srila Prabhupada ki Jai, Gaura Premanande. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Everyone together. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narotanam Devim Sarasvatim Vyasam Tatodayam Udiyayet Naskapaye Shabadeshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhakti Bhavati Naishtaki. And we'll read the English. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the very means of conquest, one should offer respectful obeisances unto the personality of Godhead Narayan, unto Naranarayana Rishi, the supremmost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author. By regular attendance in classes on the Bhagavatam, and by rendering of service to the pure devotee, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed, and loving service unto the personality of Godhead, who is praised with transcendental songs, is established as an irrevocable fact. Om Agyantimirandasya Gyananjara Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitanena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah Vanchakalpatubhyascha Kipasindubhya evacha Patitanam pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo namo namah. Namaham Vishnupadaya Krishna Peshtaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pachayine Niveshesha Shunyavadi Pashata Deshatayine. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Shivasari Gaura Bhaktavinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. So Hare Krishna, dear devotees, welcome to this morning's Srimad Bhagavatam class. We have a little bit more intimate of a group, I feel like, this morning. But that's nice. We're all nice, happy family together, practicing, getting ready to go back to Godhead. Isn't it wonderful? I like to just... Prabhupada ki jai. I like to just kind of like zoom out. If we can just kind of zoom out and just picture that you're watching this little spiritual bubble, you know, Kalachandji Dham and Kalachandji restaurant and the Gurukul and the Krishna house and then the, you know, Tamal Krishna Goswami Samadhi and the Tulsi Mandir, and, you know, just kind of imagine, just picture it out as like a little spiritual oasis. And imagine that it's like a boot camp, you know? It's like when, you know, I haven't done it myself, but when some, you know, young men will go on a boot camp and they'll get ready to join the army or to go to war. Except it's kind of the opposite in the sense that we're all like training to go back to Godhead. We're all training, and everything that we're doing here is everything that's happening in the spiritual world. That they're talking about Krishna and they're thinking, how am I going to serve him, or even, our particular line, Gaudiya Vaishnavism, is like, really, it's Manjari Bhav, actually. We're always thinking, and the Manjaris are always thinking, how can I bring others closer to Krishna? How can I bring other souls closer to Krishna? They're not thinking, how can I enjoy with Radha and Krishna? So this is our line. We're preachers. Sankirtan movement is what we're doing here. And it's just beautiful. It's just wonderful. So I just wanted to share some appreciation for that. So today we're studying Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 5, Chapter 26, and we're going through the very nice and happy the hellish planets. But like Jista said yesterday, somehow it's just a page turner. Like somehow it's just like, I don't know. It's just like you hear about it your whole life. You hear about, we always hear about hell, no matter what religion you're in, but there's like no information about it usually. It's just like fire, endless fire. It's like, what is it like? Because if we really understand what it's like, and we understand what kind of actions, what kind of mentalities can get us there, then we're a lot more likely to avoid it. Although for us, we're doing a lot more than just avoiding. We're trying to go for something higher for the spiritual world. So, anyways, I thought we would just read through all the verses. It's quite a few verses, but I think it's interesting. So I don't know if there's a microphone. I think there's one right there, Prima, or someone can go get it, please. So we'll read from the rest of the chapter, actually, from 7 to 40, and this is the end of the canto, actually. So it's pretty exciting. We'll be moving on to Canto 6 tomorrow with the nice story of Ajamil. Okay, text 7, please.
Some authorities say that there is a total of 21 hellish planets, and some say 28. My dear king, I shall outline all of them according to their names, forms, and symptoms. The names of the different hells are as follows: Tamishra, Anadatmishra, Raurava, Marorava, Kumbhipaka.
You don't have to read all of them if you don't want.
All these planets are meant for punishing the living entities.
Thank you very much.
My dear king, a person who appropriates another's legitimate wife, children, or money is arrested at the time of death by the fierce Yamadutas, who bind him with the rope of time and forcibly throw him into the hellish planet known as Tamishra. On this very dark planet, the sinful man is chastised by the Yamadutas, who beat and rebuke him. He is starved and he is given no water to drink. Thus, the wrathful assistants of Yamaraj cause him severe suffering, and sometimes he faints from their chastisement.
The destination of a person who slyly cheats another man and enjoys his wife and children is the hell known as Andatamishra. There his condition is exactly like that of a tree being chopped at its roots. Even before reaching Andatamishra, the sinful living being is subjected to various extreme miseries. These afflictions are so severe that he loses his intelligence inside. It is for this reason that learned sages call this hell Andatamishra.
A person who accepts his body as his self works very hard day and night for money to maintain his own body and the bodies of his wife and children. While working to maintain himself and his family, he may commit violence against other living entities. Such a person is forced to give up his body and his family at the time of death, when he suffers the reactions of his envy of other creatures by being thrown into the hell called Raurava.
In this life, an envious person commits violent acts against many living entities. Therefore, after his death, when he is taken to hell by Yamaraj, those living entities who are hurt by him appear as animals called rurus to inflict very severe pain upon him. Learned scholars call this hell Rurava, not generally seen in this world, the Roo is more envious than a snake.
Text 12. Punishment in the hell called Maharaurava is compulsory for a person who maintains his own body by hurting others. In this hell, Ruru animals known as Kravyada torment him and eat his flesh.
They don't want to read about it.
For the maintenance of their bodies and the satisfaction of their tongues, cruel persons cook poor animals and birds alive. Such persons are condemned even by man-eaters. In their next lives, they are carried by the Yamadutas to the hell known as Kumbhipaka, where they are cooked in boiling oil.
Maybe we'll read like 2 each, yeah. I hope nobody has any nightmares time. Don't worry, you're free from all of this.
Yeah. The killer of a Brahmana is put into the hell known as Kala Sutra, which has a circumference of 80,000 miles and which is made entirely of copper. Heated from below by fire and from above by scorching sun, the copper surface of this planet is extremely hot. Thus, the murderer of a Brahmana suffers from being burned both internally and externally. Internally, he is burning with hunger and thirst. And externally, he is burning from the scorching heat of the sun and the fire beneath the copper surface. Therefore, he sometimes lies down, sometimes sits, sometimes stands up, and sometimes runs here and there. He must suffer in this way for as many thousands of years as there are hairs on the body of an animal.
If a person deviates from the path of Vedas in the absence of emergency, the servants of Yamaraj put him into the hell called Asipatravana, where they beat him with whips. When he runs hither and thither, fleeing from extreme pain on all sides, he runs into palm trees with leaves like sharpened swords. Thus injured all over his body and fainting at every step, he cries out, "Oh, what shall I do now? How shall I be saved?" This is how one suffers who deviates from the accepted religious principles.
Maybe we'll just skip to the verse for today. we get the point, you know. And you can go on your own and see exactly which, you know, sins cause what. This one is a really important one because it talks about, you know, deviating from the path of the Vedas. So really, that's the main difference between like a divine person and a demoniac, is whether they're following the scriptures or not, the injunctions of the Supreme Lord. So I think the verse today is 37. I'm just gonna go and see. I think it was 37. So we'll just focus on that one today. Okay, we'll do the word for word together. Evam vidaha, together. Of this sort, Naraka, the many hells, Yama alaye, in the province of Yamaraj, Santi are, Shatashaha, hundreds, Sahasrashaha, thousands, Teshu, in those hellish planets, Sarveshu, all, Cha, also, Sarve, all, Eva, indeed, Adharma Varatinaha, persons not following the Vedic principles or regulative principles, Ye Kechit, whosoever, Iha, here, Uditaha, mentioned, Anuditaha, not mentioned, Cha, and, Avanipate, O king, Paryena, according to the degree of different kinds of sinful activity, Vishanti, they enter, Tata eva, similarly, Dharma anuvartina, those who are pious and act according to the regulative principles or Vedic injunctions, Itaratra, elsewhere, Iha, on this planet, Tu, but, Punabhave, into another birth, Te, all of them, Ubaya Sheshabhyam, by the remainder of the results of piety or vice, Nivishanti, they enter. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. My dear Parikshit, in the province of Yamaraj, there are hundreds and thousands of hellish planets. The impious people I have mentioned, and also those I have not mentioned, must all enter these various planets according to the degree of their impiety. Those who are pious, however, enter other planetary systems, namely the planets of the demigods. Nevertheless, both the pious and impious are again brought to earth after the results of their pious and impious acts are exhausted. So planet Earth, or the middle planetary systems, are the only ones where you can actually accrue karma, whether good or bad. So, if you get a lot of bad karma, then you have to go and suffer the reactions in the hellish planets. If you get a lot of good karma, then you go up to the higher planets. But eventually you always have to come down. So this is kind of like, this is the only way that we can actually get out of the material world, is in this planetary system. So, if we don't take full advantage of it and have it as a goal, like, I'm going to, become a pure devotee, I'm going to completely purify and become self-realized and go back to God. If we don't do it in this life, who knows where we're going? Maybe, chances are we're not going to hellish planets. But we might just go to heavenly planets, and there you go for a really long time, like thousands and thousands of years. And yeah, you're enjoying, materially speaking, but you're not with the Supreme Lord. You're not engaged in your eternal constitutional position as a spirit soul. And it's easier to forget the Lord when things are really nice, when things are really comfortable. I read in S.P.K. Shava Maharaj's book, Tattva, he was saying that there's three main impediments to growth, or spiritual growth, for anybody. And you can notice it in yourself, and you can notice it in the people around you. That first one is being too busy. I'm too busy to think about spiritual life, or to think about Krishna, or to think about my highest welfare work, or to think about who am I? Why am I here? What's going on here? And then there's what's the second one? Too proud. I'm too proud. I'm not humble. Are we thinking more and more about how to serve them, how to please them? Are we becoming softer? Are we becoming more gentle, less critical, more loving? So, purport. This corresponds to the beginning of Lord Krishna's instructions in Bhagavad Gita. Tata dehantara prapti. Within this material world, one is simply meant to change from one body to another in different planetary systems. Okay. Urdvan gachanti sattvasta. Those in the mode of goodness are elevated to the heavenly planets. Ado gachanti tamasaha. Similarly, those too engrossed in ignorance enter the hellish planetary systems. Both of them, however, are subjected to the repetition of birth and death. In Bhagavad Gita, it is stated that even one who is very pious returns to earth after his enjoyment in the higher planetary systems is over. Kshine punye matyalokam vishanti. Therefore, going from one planet to another does not solve the problems of life. The problems of life will only be solved when we no longer have to accept a material body. This can be possible if one simply becomes Krishna conscious. As Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita 4.9, Janma karma chame divyam eva yom iti tattva puna janma neti mam iti sojanaha. One who knows the transcendental nature does not, upon leaving the body, take his birth again in this material world, but attains my eternal abode, O Arjuna. This is the perfection of life and the real solution to life's problems. We should not be eager to go to the higher heavenly planetary systems, nor should we act in such a way that we have to go to the hellish planets. The complete purpose of this material world will be fulfilled when we resume our spiritual identities and go back home, back to Godhead. The very simple method for doing this is prescribed by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Sarvadharman parichacha mamekam sharanam vaja. One should neither be pious nor impious. One should be a devotee and surrender to the lotus feet of Krishna. This surrendering process is also very easy. Even a child can perform it. Manmana bhava madbhakto madhyajimam namaskuru. One must always simply think of Krishna by chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. One should become Krishna's devotee, worship him and offer obeisances to him. Thus one should engage all the activities of his life in the service of Lord Shri Krishna. Jai, Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. So, are you noticing a contrast between Srila Prabhupada's purport and the verses that we were reading? Do you see like a difference? The one thing is, the verses are very like, negative and like fear-driven, and like, if you do this, fear, and the other one is love. Fear and love. So they both have their kind of like pros and cons, you could say. So fear tends to be more direct, could say like easier, just use my own force, my power. If you do this, I'll punish you like this. But it doesn't really bring about long-term change, like in the individual, in the soul. Because the individual needs to understand, like, why do I do something? Like, am I just doing this because I'm scared of what's going to happen if I don't do it? Or am I not doing something because I'm scared of what's going to happen if I do it? Because that's very, like, precarious. That's very, like, fragile. And then there's love. And love takes time. Love takes effort. Love takes compassion. Love takes trust. And it's harder to use love, or to approach a dependent with love when the dependent is at a lower state of consciousness, you could say, or is very, like, you could say, degraded, or too much in the modes of material nature. So when we look at the historical context of when, for example, Lord Jesus Christ came down, or when Prophet Muhammad came down, it was really rough, the way that people were treating each other. And so this is why the Lord had to send a representative to give them some basic instructions on, like, human decency, like, maybe don't kill each other, and don't just, like, worship whatever, stone image of animals, or you know what I mean. Just like some basic instructions leading towards bhakti ultimately. But when we read the scriptures, these scriptures is a lot about, like, fear. You should fear God, and it's a common thing in, a good Christian will say, I'm a God-fearing man. That's like a good quality. And it's not like and it's not totally wrong. We should have some fear. But what's higher than fear? Higher than fear is love. When you do something out of love, that's satisfying. That's satisfying to the soul. Because we all want love. We don't want to act out of fear. We don't want to act like, oh no, what's going to happen to me when I die? I want to go to heaven. I don't want to go to hell. Because Krishna is the root of the tree, and if we satisfy him, if we please him with love, then we feel the love, and it's a loving exchange like that. But it's not everybody who's ready for that. So these other paths that are more fear-based, they're purifying. They're very good, actually. They can help us advance, because at least to some extent, and not compassion, and it's a gradual elevation. It's a gradual elevation. So that's why, like, we don't hear a lot about this, right? Like, who here has heard about these hellish planets in, like, a Bhagavatam class? Like, right? Like, yesterday, or, right? Like, we don't hear about it so much, right? Because why do you think we don't hear, like, devotees going into these topics so much? Any thoughts? Because it's spooky, scary, and uncomfortable. I mean, we're not usually that afraid of uncomfortable topics, but I see what you mean. Yeah, we have a hand back there. I don't know how the mic's gonna.
I heard Srila Prabhupada say way back when, in the 70s, when he was translating the Srimad Bhagavatam, we'd get these little cassette tapes sent to each temple, and then we'd listen. So on one tape, Srila Prabhupada said, after I print the 5th canto, many devotees will leave. That's what he said. And I remember hearing that thinking, oh my gosh, what's in the 5th canto?
Yeah, thank you for sharing. That's very interesting. I think it could mean several things. It could refer to more than one section. The 5th canto is quite a lot to handle for devotees. I can think of a couple that have a lot of taste for hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, and they're very eager to read, and somehow they stop during the 5th canto. Usually I hear more in regards to the different planetary systems, and all of that is very kind of difficult to understand. But the hellish planets also are challenging to hear. They can be kind of unsettling and scary, because then you start to think, how many souls are having to go through this, and what can I do? Like, what can I really do? They don't have faith in this. They just think some random guy just wrote this. It's very, very sad, actually. You had something to say, Prabhu? Or?
Yeah, there was a devotee named Nilambar that used to cook the best pakoras we've ever had. And when the 5th canto came out, then he said, he left ISKCON. He said, now I have to go with this because this doesn't make any sense to me.
Can you put the mic a bit closer? Thank you.
He said that he had to go because the 5th canto didn't make any sense to him. And he used to cook the best pakoras. They were crunchy, big cauliflower.
Did he say what he didn't understand, or what didn't make sense, or
any of it?
Anything?
Any of the planets,
yeah,
the mountains, the whole thing.
Interesting.
Just Mother Shucharya was saying that, so I just think it'd be an example that.
Yeah, it's very difficult for us to accept things that we're not able to see, or that just seems really far out, that seems like it's from a movie or something. But it's really interesting when we look at the movies that we're attracted to nowadays, like, is a lot of it you see actually is similar depictions are in the Vedic scriptures, as if we almost like remember it, or it's almost like in our consciousness, in our collective consciousness. Like superhero movies are like the biggest thing nowadays, Marvel movies and stuff, but like literally they exist as like various demigods and whatnot. So Prema, you want to say something?
Yeah, I have a couple of thoughts. One is that a lot of these descriptions that we read, I've heard in passing, but I don't know the praman, but I've heard that this is actually written from the perspective of the demigods. And the demigods see from a different type of dimension. Like our 3D is like nothing to them. It's like 2D to us, So the way that these things are described are beyond our ability to actually comprehend. And on that kind of know of these things being beyond our ability to comprehend, I like to remember that bhakti is an affair of the heart, and Krishna is inconceivable, and it's not about trying to understand. We're never gonna understand. If we're trying to develop love of God based on understanding, then we're always gonna be bereft of that. We have to develop it based on service and emotion and feeling. And a last point is that Krishna arranges for atheists to have a reason to remain atheists. If somebody wants to remain an atheist, he gives them, here, remain an atheist. Like, For example, after the battle of Kurukshetra, he left this world, and it seemed that he was killed because he had an arrow shot through his like Achilles heel or something. And the only reason he enacted that pastime in that way was so that the atheist could say, aha, see, your God died, you know? So, and this happens all the time. There's always some, and I've seen this happen just in my own relationship, like with my Guru Maharaj, like I find some fault, and I've realized that any fault that I see is just Krishna trying to give my atheistic tendency something to hold on to. So I think fifth canto kind of serves that purpose in a way to like kind of test our faith or test our willingness to overlook what we think we know. Just a few thoughts.
That was very nice. Thank you. Yeah. You know, I heard in psychology they say that we think that we're more like logical, rational. We always like, okay, I'm going to use my intelligence, my mind to figure this out. But in reality, we're emotional. Like we're emotional, like beings. And so we have things like in our heart, whether it's like pride or envy or all of these things. But then we'll use the mind, we'll use rationality to as a tool to serve those different emotions or those different conditionings that we have. So like, you know, Prema nicely said, it's a matter of the heart. Bhakti is a matter of the heart. Jai Shri Shri Radha Kalachandi. Yeah, it's a matter of the heart, and we can easily get sidetracked with trying to understand all of the intricacies of the philosophy or of the Vedic cosmology, and forget that this is a process of purification of the heart and reawakening our love of God. And the reason why all these depictions are there is so that we understand that the vastness of the universe, or even of the cosmic creation or the spiritual world, and realize how small we are and how wonderful Krishna is and how humble we should be. You know, that we're like tiny little ants trying to understand human beings. Imagine in that corner there's like a little hole, there's a few ants in there, and they're discussing and they're trying to figure out, okay, what is the human, you know? What is the that's like us. And yeah, that's what I was thinking. We're too proud. We're too proud. Yeah. Hare Krishna. Does anybody else have any thoughts? Gokulana Prabhu, I think, had his hand up for a little bit.
Yeah, in this context, Krishna in Bhagavad Gita says, right, Sarvam etad ritam manne yanmam vadasikesha. Sarvam. Arjuna says, I accept everything, all that you explained, right? So the people who give excuses, they are always trying to find some excuses. And it is like the half-end logic as explained in the Vedas, you know. I like the golden eggs, but I don't like to feed the hen, right?
I like what, sorry? Oh, the eggs,
the half-end logic. I like to have the golden eggs, but I don't like to feed. Okay. The mouth is cumbersome, I don't want to feed, you know. So I will discard what doesn't appeal to me. So what I look at, when I look at Srimad Bhagavatam, what I look is everything is important. There is a progression. Like first and second canto is compared to the lotus feet, right? So why these explanations are given is basically to understand the greatness of God. They say God is great, but there is no explanation of how great he is, what makes him so great. Mm-hmm. So when we understand the greatness, wow, how tiny, as you explained, how tiny we are as compared to the greatness of God, then that element of surrender comes. That was one thing. And the other thing I wanted to share was, you spoke about fear and love. Bhaktivinoda Thakur also touches upon that subject, and he adds two more motivations to surrender. He says, at the bottommost level is the fear, as you explained. The next one is the profit. What's in it for me, right? And then higher than that is the sense of duty, out of sense, because, you know, I am born in India, so it's my duty, or I'm born here, or because I have undergone the training, because I'm a disciple, so on and so forth. So duty. But the highest is savai punsam paro dharmo. The topmost is love. So all the isms and the scriptures, they will have all these four elements, but predominantly, just like it is explained, most of the scriptures, they're predominantly in mode of goodness, then passion and ignorance. But it's not that it is black or white, goodness, passion and ignorance accordingly. So there is an element. So similarly in our scriptures also, we'll always find this element of fear, element of duty, element of profit. You know, in few cantos you will see at the end of the chapter, Shukdev Goswami says, so I give the benediction. Anyone who hears. So that profit element is there. So all these elements will be there, but predominantly Srimad Bhagavatam is focusing on the topmost motive, which is love.
I'm just really wondering why you're not sitting up here and giving the class. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Thank you for the nice class. I have two questions.
Mm-hmm.
My first question is, it's been in my mind since yesterday after I went from Bhagavatam class. I've been thinking, so when we leave this body, I mean this body is how we experience pain and pleasure. So when we leave this body and when Yamadutas come and take our soul, when they take to this lower planetary system, we don't even have this material body. So how do we experience all this pain which they have described in this chapter?
Well, the subtle body also comes with. So the subtle body has the mind, intelligence, and false ego. And then you're given another body, right? You're given another body and you still have your mind, your intelligence. And this body doesn't die, so you just keep suffering. Does that answer your question? Or?
So you mean when we go to the hellish planet, same like in this earth planet, in those planets also we are given another body to experience that pain?
Yeah.
Okay. So my second question is, suppose we do a mistake. For example, when we go over the speed limit, the cop gives you a ticket. So the mind remembers, oh, if I go, next time it remembers, okay, if I cross the speed limit, I'm going to get a ticket, so I won't go. So that remembrance is there. So when we do all some mistakes, when we go back to these lower hellish planets, we experience all this. We don't even have a memory. So I'm just curious why Krishna made this arrangement where we don't even learn a lesson. We come back and do the same thing over and over again. So I'm just curious why Krishna set up this process where it's not even going to help us to improve because we don't even have the remembrance.
Well, we might not have the gross remembrance, you know, we might have like not in our conscious mind or even subconscious, but the impressions are there, the samskaras, they stay from past lives. Like some people have past life memories, you know, and so, yeah, we might have, I might not like remember, like I remember I was on fire and you know, but you might have like a general disposition that I feel like I shouldn't do this particular thing, you know. I don't know, something tells me that it's probably a bad idea, even though all your friends are like, come on, you're like, no, I don't know. And you might not remember, but the impressions are still there. Does that make sense?
Is it also true that since we went through that process, the super soul kind of also helps us because you already went through the consequence and then he helps us to avoid that mistake again? Is that also true?
Yeah, I mean, the super soul is always there, like guiding us as a friend, definitely. And if we have an inclination that we don't want to go in that way, then the super soul will try to make arrangements like that. You know, the super soul is kind of like a friend. He's trying to help you, whatever you want, type of thing. Does that make sense? Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other thoughts on that? Gokulananda Prabhu.
So as I was explaining, if you can recall, we had the discussion, Ajit Prabhu.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So we were discussing about this thing, how merciful Krishna is that we don't remember our past lives, karmas.
Yeah.
Because Krishna is so magnanimous, he wants to give us a fresh start. Just imagine, yesterday I didn't chant my rounds attentively. Today there is another chance, fresh start. It's a bright, fresh new day, right? So similarly, I remember one of my senior god brothers said, if we remembered the ghastly activities, what we did in the past life, probably we would just feel depressed and would commit suicide. But it's such a mercy of the Lord that we don't remember that ghastly past, and it's a fresh start. We can start over again, right?
Yeah.
That's how I look at it.
Yeah, but her point is, that we should learn, or else what's the point of going through it? One thing is dreams. Dreams could indicate experiences that we've had in past life. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, it says that everything that we see, everything we experience in a dream, if we're able to experience in a dream, that's because we've experienced it at some point in past lives. So like if you're like flying through the sky, that means you were like a bird or like a demigod or something. And sometimes we get a dream and you get some directions from it, a lot of the times. So it's not very gross, but the memory is still there. The samskaras are still there. Yes.
Thank you, Prabhu. Yes, I want to add to the point that you were mentioning, that maybe not in gross aspects we remember them, but in subtle, our subtle body does remember it. And for long, I also had the same questions that Lalita Sundari had about what's the point in suffering. But it's like in this life, you're just not drawn to certain
mouth on the
things.
microphone. Please.
You're just not drawn to certain things. You see others do it, but you just know, no, this is going to cause a problem, So it's like, how do you know that? You haven't tried it in this life, but you just know, no, I don't want to do this. So then it's like, you've experienced in past life that, this caused problems for you. So it's almost like, no, I don't want to do this. So we've experienced it, and our subtle bodies remember it.
So if I can speak from personal experience, growing up, going to school, going to high school, I always just felt like this is wrong, the way people are behaving. And I was the only one. Like my family were not thinking like that, nobody around me. But I was always just like, something's off with this society. So clearly, and it's not like I was remembering anything in particular, but I just had a general sense of like, I don't know if this is the right way to live. So I think Prabhu had a question. You wanted to say something? Yeah, go ahead, yeah.
This material world is an artificial arrangement by the Supreme Lord with a purpose to reform our behavior, right? So this is like a sport or a game. When I think of, I don't know about the American games, but in India we have something called cricket. So let's say one player, he has different matches, but all of his overall records are taken into consideration. So in one match he might have performed bad, but that doesn't mean his career is ended there. He's given another chance, so there is a fresh match. So similarly, all of us, we are playing this game, okay, with a purpose to prove that I don't want to enjoy separately from you, my dear Lord, okay. I'm done with this world. I want to get back. But in doing so, the principle is this, but details are arranged so expertly, dexterously by Lord Brahma as a secondary creator, that we are forced to play this game, and we have to follow these rules. These rules have certain specific purpose behind them. I may not be, just like you said, the ant. Ant cannot understand the intricacies of the human form of life, right? A particular branch of study, let's say science. Within science there is physics, chemistry, and so on and so forth, so many branches. Ant cannot understand. Similarly, we may or may not be able to understand why a rule has been introduced in a particular game, but the person who has created that game, right, he knows. So that's how, all we need to do is just play the game fair.
And the cheat code for the game, if anyone's played video games here, maybe not so much. Sometimes you have a cheat code where you press a few buttons like X, Y, B, B, and then you get like superpowers. For us, we just have to use our mouth, and we press Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Yes, Prabhu. And the Bhagavad Gita. Yes, Prabhu.
Yes, Hare Krishna. Thanks for the lecture, Prabhu. So I want to just share
Make sure you hold the mic.
Yeah, 2 or 3 points.
Yeah.
So this like we do see hellish conditions even while we live in earth, on this earth. We do see many of us, many among us, I'm saying the general public among us, who go through hellish conditions. So if these are the circumstances in the earth, so it is quite easy to understand that it is more probability, or there are planets designed specifically to put the impious through 100% hellish conditions. It is only quite natural. Another thing is the word Shraddha in Sanskrit. I have come to know that there is no equivalent English word available. The rough approximate synonym or a meaning could be faith, but it is not just faith alone, it is extremely, supremely extraordinary faith in Shastras and Guru Vakyas. From the Vedas, we do get the explanation through the Puranas, like our Srimad Bhagavatam. So, in the absence of Pratyaksha Pramana, meaning, oh, I am a rationalist, I am a logician, I am a scientist, and therefore I will only accept if I see something through my senses, etc., is only for those logicians and science-based or rational-based individuals. The Vedas and the scriptures by themselves are a pramana by themselves. So I know there was a discussion about, how can I believe this, etc. Somebody in the past made that opinion or something like that, right? If I understood that was the case, like one of our devotees just now shared. So the Vedas are considered as a pramana by themselves. An ordinary person like me cannot have access for this knowledge. It is the extraordinary seers of the past who have transmitted these information through the knowledge of hearing through a Guru Shishya disciplic succession from the eons. So that was the other thing that I wanted to share, which is there is this pramana, Shastra pramana, that exists beyond the 6 ordinary pramanas that are normally used on this earth. For instance, the Pratyaksha pramana, and there are 5 other pramanas are there. And then the subject of the dreams. Yes, there is I wanted to share an example from the Ramayana, which is the popularly known as the Trijada Swapnam. Trijada is a relative of Maharaj Vibhishan, and when Mother Sita was upset that something might happen to the Lord Ram, she was, at that moment, Trijada shared with Mother Sita that she went through a swapna very recently, in the past day or so, that the war between Ravan and Ram, she saw indications in a dream that Ravan was going southbound and putting some oil on his body, etc., which are indications of defeat for Ravan. And at the same time, Lord Ram was going towards the north direction, etc., plus other indications as well, which are all part of that swapna she did explain to the mother, Sita. And it really panned out. A few days later, into the war, that indeed Lord Ram succeeded. So there are this Swapna Shastra. Swapna itself is a Shastra. Swapna Shastra is, in many times it has been recorded at various occasions in the Ramayana as well. So those are the, yeah. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much for sharing, Prabhu. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there's so many different reasons why we should have faith in scriptures. One other one we haven't talked about so much yet is like it literally predicts the future. Like it literally predicted so many things. Like the appearance of Lord Chaitanya, for example, the appearance of Lord Buddha. It even describes the different stages of the embryo in the womb, things that only recently have been discovered in science. So yeah, that's a good one to use on more scientifically minded people. Be like, hey, there's actually like practical things and there's predictions of the future. Any final thoughts before we conclude today's ecstatic Srimad Bhagavatam class? Jai Shri Shri Radha Kalachandji and Jai Drishtadyumna Prabhu ki also. And Prabhupada Priya Prabhu ki jai also. She just left to India for 2 months, so we'll wish her the best. All right. Yantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.